Good afternoon, everybody. It's KB5MIQ Big Boy. Thought we'd touch base on a couple of subjects today, finish out the week a little bit. Number one, I talked my last video about how to get a ham license and how to study and maybe how to renew a license and things like that. There's some more stuff I found out about that. My main suggestion to anybody that's interested in becoming a ham is contact a local ham. Uh, if you can't get a hold of somebody, contact me. Tell me where you live. I'll see if I can help you get a hold of somebody in that area. Ham Club be the best way to initiate your first license. There's all kinds of study assist online that most of them you have to pay for, which is fine. That'll help you do your file, your paperwork, and all that. In fact, I used one of them for years to renew my license. First time I ever renewed my license on my own this year by going straight to FCC for the form. Right now, it don't cost you nothing. According to FCC, they can start charging us. But I'm good till 72 years old. And if I have to pay them $50 at 72, that may be the last time I have to pay them. I don't know. We'll see. I can't see me renewing over two more times anyway. But look at the different avenues of that. ARRL is still an excellent place to start. Um, Study books, online testing. Another good point on testing is when you go take your initial test, if this hasn't changed, and if it has, somebody comment and tell me and I'll correct myself in the next video. If this hasn't changed, if you pay one testing fee, say to take your first license, and you pass, you can take the next test for free. You can pass as long as you're passing under one payment of a license fee to a VE club, to a ham club or a VE testing session. VE stands for volunteer examiner, by the way, and I guess I need to clarify that that's usually extra class hams who have the VE certification added on to them through, I think the ARRL does that. I'm not sure, but I have to find out. I never have got my VE certification because we don't have enough hams in our area anymore to maintain a club of any kind, and there's plenty of other local clubs doing testing. So, but once you take your first test and pass it, take the next test. And if you fail it, at least you've taken the test, get an idea of what it's like, and it'll help you study for it. I'll give you a good example of that. When I took my general upgrade in '07, um, the guy told me, he said, might as well take extra while you're here. I said, you passed. I said, well, I ain't ready for it. He said, won't hurt nothing. Take it. At least you'll get exposure to it. Well, I took the test and I failed it. And the guy called me over, same guy called me over and sat down with me and went over where all the points I'd missed. He said, I'm going to show you something on just taking this extra class test. Now, this is just advice that I used. I'm not advocating anybody do this route. But I'm an operator. I can hook radios up. I can build antennas. I understand the procedures. I understand the rules. But if I take the top off that radio and look in it, it looks like a caveman looking at fire for the first time. I'm not that good of a tech guy. I do have some electronics background, one of my previous jobs before I retired, and I am a industrial electrician, trained industrial electrician on construction, commercial house wiring, and building wiring. That don't make me qualified to work on the radio. So this gets back to what he was telling me on the test. He said, the test is broke out in different groups, and there's more questions in certain groups than there are others. And on this particular EA test, there's 3 math questions that were all calculus or high level algebra that either one I ain't good at. I'm calculator math. He said, don't waste your time on these 3. Spend your time learning these bigger groups of questions because you can miss all 3 of these as long as you don't miss as many of these, and you can be fine. And that's what I did. He said, don't worry about the math questions. Unless you like math, I wouldn't worry about them. That's what I did. And I passed extra. All right. You've got the other avenues we've talked about. There's all kinds of groups online that you can pay a fee to, and they will help you study, provide you with study material, and a lot of it will help file your paperwork. Also, the VEs, I think, part of that fee you pay them to mail your paperwork in. So There are avenues like that. Like I said, good place to start still is ALL.org. And we'll see if I clarify this. To give you a typical VE session, 3 VEs got together, wanted to give me my novice test. And I did it at one of them's house. I was the only one tested that night. And my other tests, my other licenses have been taken at regular clubs on a monthly test session. And some clubs offer study groups to help get you studied and ready for the test at their club. I know one of the local ones here east of me did that before COVID hit. Now, as far as the online testing goes, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, because I was kind of under the wrong assumption about that. That is done through like a Zoom app that a local club sets up. And I still believe there has to be somebody present at your house with you to take the test. That was just set up done during COVID. There's not an online test that you could just take straight from the FCC and get your license. So, first step, look for a local ham or contact me, tell me where you're at, and I'll try to help find one. ALL.org, ARRL.org, Amateur Radio Relay League. They're kind of the NRA of the radio, so they're a good group to get involved with. They help you get this going so far. Any other questions, leave me a comment, and I'll try to help you any way I can. I had a question about best choice of HF radios. What I'm about to say is strictly my opinion and what I use and have used, and differences in HF radios today versus, say, 30 years ago when I got into this hobby. I'm not telling you this is the way it's got to be done. For anybody says I'm telling anything wrong or giving somebody erroneous information. If you look at radios now versus radios when I got into it, the multi-screen functions and microprocessor control has made radios a lot smaller with a lot more features in the same size case or smaller case than the other radios. My first radio was an Icom 701, which was strictly a 10 through 160 meter radio, single sideband, CW, radio teletype only, had a noise blanker filter, and an automatic noise limiter filter, and a RIT, and that's it. That's all the thing had on it. It was about the same width as this 897D, about twice as tall, and about the same depth. This Yaesu 897D that I currently use is a HF, 6 meters, 2 meters, and 440. Covers everything from 160 meters to 440 megahertz, all modes, everything, 100-watt radio. It's a military ruggedized radio, carrying handle on the side. It was really made more for portable operations. This radio has the capability of taking onboard batteries that you can operate the radio at a lower output power for field use. Of course, it always runs on 12 volt DC. I use an Astron RS35 amp power supply. 35 amp power supply is what I use with this radio. It's a good radio. I like Yaesu radios. A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't think they're as good as Icom Kenwood. It's one of the easiest program radios. This radio will do a lot more than I've ever done with it. I still keep my manual handy to where I have to refer to it if I'm trying to do something else. Like I say, I'm largely an HF operator on 10 and 17. W5 DLX, Cody, has got a 991. And he does a lot of portable ops, takes his radio camping, which is an ideal radio. Same, I think it covers the same bands. I think it's kind of an upgraded version of that radio. Covers the same bands, and he uses it a lot portable. I don't do portable ops unless I have to, and I hadn't had to in a long time. If you look at an older HF radio, they may be twice the size, and they're only going to cover the HF bands. In fact, some of the older HF radios didn't even cover 160s. I've seen some that were just 10 through 80 meter rigs. And every function on that radio is a button, switch, or knob on the front of it. Older ham we had in the area, it's a silent key now. Back in 95, got us out there at his house one night to show us his new radio. He had bought the next to the top of the line Icom. That radio was huge. and it was strictly an HF radio. It might have had 6 meters in it, but I don't think it did. I think it was strictly a 10 through 160 radio, all mode, everything under the sun on. I think it was a 200-watt radio even, but it was huge. It was 3 times the size of that one, and about in that era probably a $6,000 radio. So older HF rigs, see them for sale all the time. I like an older rig for lots of things. I wish I had an older rig. I've always wanted a tube rig, and I've never broke down and bought one, just for the nostalgia of operating a tube rig. They're great. They make some excellent radios, older radios, and people still use them today. But if you buy an older radio, be prepared. You may run into problems repairing the radio if you have problems with it. I got a couple of friends of mine, one in particular that's a new ham and hadn't got on the air yet, that he can fix an older radio, I think. He's done that type of work all his life, and he bought an older Kenwood TS430S strictly for that reason, because he doesn't like computers, and that's the way those old radios work. One of the drawbacks of those old radios, with all the buttons, switches, and knobs on the front, and it's an older radio, it's a point. Every one of them is a point to have a problem. Gets dirty, loose, sticky, or gets wore out. This is like when I was doing house electrical work. The biggest light switch to go out in a house that I had to replace in more houses on service calls was the light over the kitchen sink. Absolutely, I can't tell you how many of them I replaced in houses. Some of them, bedroom light switches, very rarely go out. The light over the kitchen sink gets wore out in an average house. You got to look at how much your space your shack's got in it. There are some brand new radios are cheaper than they ever been to get into this hobby. There's the big three: Icom, Yaesu, Kenwood. Alinco's making an HF rig that's very reasonably priced. And Alinco makes, I've used Alinco 2 meter for years, and they make good radios. There's some other stuff, MFJ's, got some QRP rigs. There's another brand that starts with an X. I can't even pronounce it. And HKV told me what that radio was based on. It's a computer-based radio, and I don't really know how to explain it. But they get a lot of good reviews on them. I don't know anything about them. Never have even seen one. I recommend do some research. Look at how much shack space you got and what you're going to be doing with it, and just make your choices from there, versus used radio versus new radio. I know eBay still sells lots of radios. Look at the seller, how his rating is on shipping, because those radios have to be packed really well, because they really are heavy. You don't want to get damaged in shipping. I know years ago I saw a ham buy a Drake, and the guy didn't pack it good. The radio shifted and broke the desk mic in shipping, and the guy wouldn't do nothing about it. So just have to watch out for that. HF radio gets to the expensive side of ham radio. The antennas don't have to be expensive. Watch any of my other videos, you can see them being built on what I've used and things about building antennas. But if you get into HF, it's going to cost you a little money. Anyway, got any questions? Give me a remark, comment, or contact me direct on my QRZ page. I've got my email posted. Like all who subscribed, I've had a big jump in subscribers the last couple of weeks, and I do these videos to try to help promote the hobby. In no way I'm saying I'm correct on everything, it's just the way I do things. It's KB5MIQ, Big Boy, 73.